Nestled in the suburbs of West London are 320 acres containing one of the most amazing plant collections in the world. The Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew.
It's absolutely amazing how wonderful nature is.
From the historic glass houses
Wow, what a nice view.
to the ever-changing walks and vistas,
This is this tree's children.
we've been given special access to capture a year in the life of this unique place. With 17,000 species of plants to nurture
You were like a kid in a candy store. Oh, look what I've got, look what I've got.
and 2 million visitors to enchant,
The greenhouse is actually quite tall.
the staff are busier than ever.
So we're almost near the end of loading the kiln.
Creating vibrant public displays
It's addictive. To work with just so many beautiful flowers.
and doing vital work behind the scenes.
This unit is a big drone. In here is a laser that spins around.
Throughout the months and whatever the weather.
This is the cycle to have when you're having a bad day with the view of the palm house.
The gardens and the people who keep them alive never stay still. This is Kew, a year in bloom. It's the peak of summer in Kew Gardens. The days are warm and sunny, and the visitors are making the most of the dry weather, whilst the staff do their best to keep everything alive. One of the summer's biggest draws is the Rose Garden, where 170 different varieties flower from June to September under Dave's watchful eye.
I do particularly like the old roses. The history around them is really interesting. They've been linked to ancient civilizations. They've been grown thousands of years, purely for pleasure.
The idea for a bed of roses here is almost as old as the gardens themselves. In 1848, renowned designer William Nesfield included space for one as part of a new landscape plan. But no roses were planted until the 1920s, when they became an instant hit.
We drove all the way from Sweden, got here, started smelling the roses. I just discovered one of these yellow ones and it smelled of lemon. And I never smelled roses smelling of lemon, and it was just amazing.
It's quite nice to look at the text and explains a little bit about the names of the roses. The one that's named Charles Darwin, it has this brilliant smell and actually you could really smell it.
It just happened, we decided to come to Kew and we go, oh, the roses should be out, they must be out. And so, of course, they're absolutely fabulous when they're like this. There's nothing to beat it. My fingers itch to deadhead some of them.
Yeah, I've been trying to stop her pulling the heads off.
No, the deadheads.
I know.
Tempting as it might be, spontaneous gardening is not allowed for visitors. But if anyone really can't resist the urge, every season Dave needs a small army of volunteer deadheaders, as long as they sign up in advance.
I do enjoy seeing the public interacting with the garden. People come to linger, have picnics, and children can run about. School groups often stop here for their lunch. It's a very, very popular area.
Radiating out from the Rose Garden are the crowning glory of Nesfield's plan. 2 vistas framed by matching pairs of trees. Head of Tree Collections, Kevin, looks after them.
So we're standing on the steps of the Palm House. From here we can see the 2 vistas, which were all part of William Nesfield's plan. So the first instalment was Pagoda Vista. So this runs all the way to the end, to the pagoda, and we can see a great view from here. And then next door, leading us to the other side of the Arboretum, down towards the Thames, is Scion Vista.
Nesfield's work here sparked a revolution in landscaping. and helped the gardens earn UNESCO World Heritage status in 2003. But his design has one issue. As the trees grow bigger and bushier, the view is slowly obscured.
What we're going to do is prune it. It's a very fiddly prune, it's a lot of hand saws and it's a lot of small cuts. So the plan is to expand and open the view, but make it look like the tree hasn't been pruned so it still looks natural.
Over at the stable yard, Kevin's team of arboriculturists, known around here as the Tree Gang, are preparing for the job. They generally work by climbing the trees, but to reach the furthest branches encroaching on the vista, they've hired a cherry picker. Tom has to drive it down to the site.
It's going to be an extremely slow process. Yeah, that is top speed. Obviously, it'd take less time to walk there.
Tom and Rich will be up in the canopy, trying to give each tree a natural-looking trim.
Heads up.
The problem is the team in the cherry picker can't see the wood for the trees. So Cecily is on hand to provide artistic direction.
If you stand here, do you see the line where the tree naturally curves through from the top all the way to the bottom?
From there to like
all the way around, yeah? So they've just taken back little clumps, nothing hard. They're trying to create a natural edge whilst also bringing the view in.
Should go get a person to do it. Yeah, you can see as we're dropping it, there's just loads of pollen coming off all of this. Quite harsh on the throat.
Tickle.
There are 82 trees on Scion Vista. At the end of the first morning, the gang have trimmed 3.
Today's Monday, so we've got a fair few trees to do before Friday. So we're going to do our best. Like, now the ball's rolling, we'll be fine.
Come back as Kevin rolls out some state-of-the-art gear from Victorian times.
Its nickname is the Devil because every time someone used it, someone got injured.
Sample the produce from the secret allotments.
To see an end product, take it home and eat it, it's like a prize really.
And meet the world's smelliest flowering plant.
It's rotting meat, it's cabbage, it's an odd combination of things.
Across Kew Gardens, the staff plan their duties around the seasons, meeting the plant's needs on a familiar annual cycle. But not every plant has a predictable rhythm. Inside the Princess of Wales Conservatory, a famous resident is keeping Alberto waiting.
So this is the Titanarum, and more precisely, this is the inflorescence of the Titanarum.
The Titanarum is well known for 2 things. One is the enormous size of its central flowering spike, which can reach a height of 3 meters, and the other is its most unusual smell.
It's pollinated by beetles, carrion fly, which are attracted by the foul smell of rotting meat. It's a weird smell, it's rotting meat, it's cabbage, it's an odd combination of things. I remember the last one we had, I could smell something was not right, and I was like, oh yes, must have started opening.
Each Titanarum seems to work to its own timetable, sometimes going 10 years or more without flowering.
When it will open, it's never easy to tell. I would say days, maybe a week time. In the past few years, I tried to read the signs, but they always change. There's no prediction possible.
The only prediction Alberto can make with confidence is that when the blooms do appear, a large crowd is sure to follow.
Everybody wants to smell it. It's kind of odd. It's not a nice smell, but it's intriguing coming from a plant. You would expect a flower to smell nice. This is not a really giant one. This is a tiny Titan. Today we got 92 centimeters. I don't expect him to go much higher than this. Probably going to reach the meter something. It's good enough to have it on display, and it's going to smell as bad.
Outside, on Scion Vista, the tree gang are working to their own strict timetable. 3 days into the big prune, they're just over halfway between the Palm House and the River Thames.
And then if we just tip these ends in, yeah?
Yeah.
You got that?
Yep.
Steady.
It would be easy just to come straight down and head trim up the sides, but that's not a natural form and it's not how the vista was intended to look. So we're just sort of trying to round in the top and the bottom whilst taking in a little bit. So you get that shape of a normal tree without you knowing that we've been there, really.
The job of opening up these vistas is nothing compared to laying them out in the first place. Nesfield's planned pathways ploughed through a grove of mature trees. Rather than chop down important specimens, the Victorian tree gang had to move them, using a Barron's tree transplanter.
We believe that this is the last remaining one in the world. There was one at the Royal Botanic Gardens, Edinburgh, but it's not there anymore.
Born in 1805, William Barron was a Scottish landscaper who invented a way to move mature trees upright instead of dragging them along the ground.
Prior to Barron, they used to use the capability Brown method, where the trees were transported horizontally. Now, this would have caused damage to the bark and the sapwood, which is vital for the tree to survive. Not only that, the tree would have become one-sided, and it would take a number of years for that tree to grow out to get a nice, even canopy.
Barron's invention avoided this kind of damage, and because it had wheels, big trees could be moved further, faster, and with less work. But for the men and horses who had to operate it, it still wasn't easy.
Its nickname is the Devil, and that's because when the garden's team would use it, one of them would always have an injury if it's a broken arm or shoulder. Every time someone used it, someone got injured.
When petrol power arrived in the 1930s, the men happily retired the Devil, and it was left to rot in a barn. Then in 1999, Kevin's former boss decided the old Devil had life in it yet.
He thought it'd be a great idea to have it refurbished as part of the Millennium celebrations, and it was used then to transplant some cedars. They all dressed in period clothing, so it really did paint the picture of when the Baron was used.
Even now, Kevin gets the Devil out for the odd demonstration. In between times, he keeps it safe for tree gangs of the future.
We're custodians, you know. Everyone in the arboriculture unit, this has a special place in their heart, and we always take care of it. This is, you know, from our forefathers.
Tucked away near the Great Pagoda, there's another piece of hidden heritage, an Anderson shelter from the Second World War.
This place used to be the private garden for the house, which is over by Lion Gate. And in World War II, the family would have to come out and their Anderson shelter was there for them to hide down.
For many years, these were the staff allotments. In 2018, half of the space was donated to community projects. with the shelter serving as a book exchange. Unusually for one of the world's great botanic gardens, many of its users have no gardening experience whatsoever.
So welcome, and what I've done for you is in front of you, in your pots, I've put all your growing mediums. So I've got you, anybody recognise that? Strawberries. Strawberries.
The garden's users are often dealing with social or psychological issues, and they're looked after by Jane.
We do engage with people who are not necessarily in a really good place at the time, and this is just an absolute retreat and somewhere safe and somewhere delightful where they can just be themselves.
Today, one of her groups are learning the art of hanging baskets.
The last thing you've got in your pot is actually just some garden soil. So what I want you to do now, without breathing any in, is gently incorporate everything so it ends up looking like Ramtin and Anna's over there.
Nearby, a more seasoned group are at work on their vegetables.
It's incredible how much we've learnt over the last few years, with Jane being our teacher, so to speak.
So here we've got the wonderful Gary and Stanley and Desiree from Shepherd's Star. They're going to be potting up some beans.
Yes.
Perfect time of the year. Pot up the beans.
So we've got our soil, and then we've mixed it with shavings of coconut, which is the brown stuff. And we're going to practically half-fill these, put the seeds in, give it a bit of water, and we're ready to go.
Excellent. When they're here, they're gardeners. So any of those medical appointments that people are dealing with day in, day out, any of those psychological appointments that they're dealing with day in, day out, that's all on hold. They walk in here and they're just equal.
Coming here now over the last year, I've learnt so much, and it's helped me to create my garden at my house. It's very therapeutic. It helps with my mental health.
It's amazing just through growing different things that you'd never think that you would actually eat. Classic example is obviously the fennel. To see an end product and literally take it home, wash it, and then sit there and eat it, it's just like a prize, really.
I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now, where before I couldn't at all. It was just so bad. I didn't have many friends before, you know. So yeah, I suppose I was very lonely, and that's, I'll come here, a lump in my throat. So coming here, I've got friends, stuff now. Sorry, I do get a bit emotional. I feel like I'm sort of part of a team now, you know.
I'm just so lucky with the people I work with. They're an absolute breath of fresh air. They're the nicest people in the world. I've just got the best job at Kew.
Come back as the Titan Arum causes a heck of a stink.
It smells like feces.
The American prairie is cut down to size.
So we're mowing down the prairie. All of these flowers will go.
And the parterre is replanted.
It's getting hotter and hotter as the week goes on. I think we're going to be a bit frazzled by the end of the week.
Visitors who enter Kew Gardens from the Victoria Gate will see the great palm house rising before them. But a little lower down, and just in front, is another Victorian wonder, the palm house parterre.
The palm house is an exemplar of a piece of Victorian architecture, so they put this parterre in front of it, the showground for Victorian bedding. And it's the kind of planting that you see, or you used to see, in public parks and gardens, seaside towns.
Like many things in the gardens, this is the brainchild of William Nesfield, who laid out an intricate pattern of beds in 1848. On this seasonably warm day, the parterre has been stripped back and prepared, using techniques that Nesfield would recognise.
After we've evened the soil surface, we tread it back down by foot It's the most efficient way that we've come up with so far, so that's what I'm up to right now. There is probably the machine, but this is the way it's done.
Twice each year, tens of thousands of plants are removed, then replaced, with new seasonal displays, under manager Joanna's guidance.
This takes absolute minimum 2 weeks to do, and that's with a lot of extra help. It is trying to match up your resources, and are the plants in the right place, are the people in the right place, is the weather doing what it's supposed to do. So it is a big exercise to get everything organised and in one place.
If you're a bit acrobatic, it helps, certainly. You've got to be as light on your feet as possible. Once I've sort of planted myself in one area, just do as much as I can within reach, just so I'm sort of making as little impact on birds as possible.
There is a school of thought that says that this is an old-fashioned way of gardening. It is an old-fashioned way of gardening. But we need to draw people into Kew so that they will go to the glass houses, go to the conservation areas, go to the places where there are plants they don't know. And the way that you do that is by giving them something they understand and something that they want to have their picture taken against, and something spectacular.
Delivering the spectacle is not easy when half the beds are bare earth and the rest are crawling with horticulturists. So Joanna needs to get everything planted in the shortest possible time.
By the end of today, we will have all 4 beds laid out, not planted, but we have extra teams coming in tomorrow, so they'll be able to start straight away just putting the plants out. And then we've got something here for people to look at the weekend. That's what we always think of is when we get most of our visitors.
It'd be quite nice to be dry and cooler, and then with a bit of rain overnight to help the plants, that would be perfect. But it's getting hotter and hotter as the week goes on. I think we're going to be a bit frazzled by the end of the week.
On the opposite side of the palm house, the tree gang have been hard at work for a week, pruning Scion Vista. At last, they've reached the River Thames, and they're on the final tree.
Heads up! Nice. Cool, happy? Awesome.
After days of painstaking labour, the gang get a good look at their handiwork. Only now they realise Tom missed a bit.
Pardon?
Can't see it out.
It's that first one we started.
It's really bothering me.
Yeah, me too. I do want to return to that first one we did and just prune it back slightly more. Yeah. Other than that, it's nice. But we can always do that. We can set up on it again with rope and harness and just sort of bring that side in.
Achieving perfection will have to wait till another day, as Tom has to drive the cherry picker all the way back to the yard.
Yeah, it's going to take maybe not quite an hour. It's probably a bit of an over-exaggeration, but at least half an hour, I reckon. Just sort of stood here, finger pressing a button. Quite painful. I mean, there could be worse ways of spending a Friday, so pretty happy with it. Job's done.
Over at the Princess of Wales Conservatory, Alberto's long wait is also at an end. The Titan arum has finally flowered.
So the flower opened yesterday midday, started opening, and now it's already started to closing again, so it was slightly more spread out, but it still stinks quite a lot. Yeah, it still stinks a lot.
Oh, it's so smelly. It smells like feces. Not great. It smells like the zoo. It's impressive. It looks better than it smells. Yes, definitely.
Oh.
Yeah, when you get close here, actually. Yeah.
Kind of fishy. Not so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Like biltong that's been left out for a few days. Great choice of smell for a flower, I guess.
This is not technically speaking a flower, but the world's largest unbranched inflorescence. The flowers themselves are hiding in its base.
Let's see if we can gently open it up. So if you go inside right at the base there, those are the single flowers. So you have the female flower at the bottom. They are violet in color, quite oblong with the stigma. And the male flower are the yellow one right on top.
The large spike at the center, the spadix, broadcasts the presence of the flowers in its own delightful way.
As the spadix heats up, the perfume will become more intense and it will spread out farther away. And this is a way to get all the pollinators coming in. And if you manage to see there are some flies still coming in and being curious about it.
This is one possible reason the spadix can reach heights of 3 meters, like a botanical antenna. The bigger it is, the stronger the signal it sends. This one has topped out at just over 1 meter, but the crowds are definitely getting the message.
Severely rotting meat. When you've left it and it's gone green and the flies are wriggling rather than flying onto it.
"30 miles from the gardens in West London, Kew has a sister site, Wakehurst, their wild botanic garden. As its name suggests, nature takes the lead here in shaping the landscape. A few years ago, Director Ed started an experiment to see if an endangered type of North American grassland habitat could thrive on English soil.
I remember standing out in this site with one of my colleagues and saying, can we make a prairie here? So really from that point of that first germ of the idea to where we are now, just surrounded by plants, it's amazing to have gone on that arc really.
The secret of success was to mimic the way prairies develop back home by sowing seeds that grow at different rates.
So this is Rudbeckia, it's known as the Black-Eyed Susan. It's a classic colonizer of disturbed ground. So this is often one of the first plants that will arrive in the life cycle of a prairie. This is Monarda, also known as bergamot. And from a purely aesthetic point of view, this dark purple really kind of contrasts beautifully with the gold. And slowly over time, the composition of the prairie will shift away from these early kind of pioneer plants to the really long-term prairie species.
These plants are just phase 1 of the prairie planting, but now their work is done.
So what we have at the moment is our base layer. We're going to add in the plants that will really kind of form the sort of decades-long framework for this grassland system. So we're going to do that by mowing down the prairie, which I think might be a bit unsettling for some of our visitors. All of these flowers will go.
Out in the Great Plains, these plants will be cut down naturally, either by grazing bison or wildfire. As neither is an option at Wakehurst, ride-on mowers do the job. Meanwhile, in the nursery, Alice and Chris have grown 50,000 new plants for phase 2. All they have to do is plant them. Come back as Stephen gets to grips with a furry critter.
Something wriggling in the bottom there. Oh, it's gone.
The staff learn prairie planting the American way.
What we're going to do is take these 3 species and just jumble them all together.
And the parterre planting inspires the visitors.
I'm trying to get ideas what I can get in my garden. I mean, obviously I don't have a garden that big. Kew Gardens changes constantly throughout the year as it follows the cycle of the seasons. Maintaining it requires some serious work. In front of the palm house, the decorative team
are putting the finishing touches to the replanted parterre.
I've lost track of time. I don't know how many weeks it's been. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, but we got it done. And that's the main thing.
It's actually taken 2.5 weeks and around 14,000 plans to completely transform this area for the summer.
It's looking great now. It's taken a lot of effort from a lot of people, from a lot of different areas. That's the best part about it. You get to see people that you never usually see. Everyone comes together and achieves something like this.
And all that hard work hasn't gone unnoticed by the visitors.
We were just walking past and I literally just said to my friend how lovely it was, because I love orange and purple together, it looks so nice. It's a massive job, yeah. But no, it looks lovely. I love the colours actually, really nice.
I'm trying to get ideas what I can get in my garden from here today. I mean, obviously I don't have a garden that big.
We've had some really, really lovely feedback. Everybody's really curious about the plants. Some of them are very familiar plants, like the begonias, but this edging here that we've got is a scaevola. That's quite an unusual plant. People have been starting to stop and take pictures, which is really lovely to see. That's what it's all about.
I love the pattern of it. I'm looking forward today to getting the quirky angle, if I can.
Over the summer months, the plants will grow and fill the spaces, and flowering plants will climb up and cover the supporting frames. But the decorative team's work is far from over.
Just going to be maintaining it, going on, which is basically deadheading, weeding, edging, mowing everything, so it looks really smart the whole time. You just got to keep going at it until we rip it all out in October.
It's not just the never-ending deadheading they have to contend with. There's also a gang of mindless vandals on the prowl.
So we're just fixing the fence here. We've got a problem with geese finding their way through and breaking the fence. And they love it over here. I think there's lots of snacks for them, like all the little insects and stuff, but also the plants, they like to eat them. They like to pull off the leaves and just leave them lying around. The families have been coming over and just kind of flattening the plants and making nests and stuff.
Over there, there's one they've literally pooed right on top of a begonia. I'm sure they're doing it deliberately.
As well as dealing with incontinent wildfowl, the team will plan a new display for the autumn. But for now, they and the visitors get to admire their handiwork.
It's just such a lovely setting, on the water on one side, farmhouse on the other side.
So it looks spot on, excellent.
It's just incredible, the amount of teamwork, all the logistics, the planning, the getting the numbers right. Oh, yeah, I think we all need to have a lie down, actually.
Down at Wakehurst in Sussex, the team are about to add 50,000 new plug plants to the American prairie.
Yeah, and that's Monarda punctata, which is dotted.
Overseeing the job is a special visitor, fresh off the plane from the USA.
For some reason, though.
Larry Weiner, we've been working with on this project since the beginning. He has been restoring prairies and creating prairie-inspired landscapes for decades. But he's going to train the team in how to get the planting right and how to get the composition right.
4 years ago, I certainly had no idea I would be at Wakehurst in the UK or anywhere in Europe designing a North American prairie. But as soon as I got here, I realized very quickly that this was an important project and got very excited from the get-go and still am.
If the parterres in West London are the epitome of formal Victorian planting, then Larry's style is more or less the exact opposite.
Prairie dropseed is a grass. The blazing star is a blue spiked flower that blooms in the middle of summer. And the wild blue indigo is a spring blooming spiked flower. It's almost like you have to take off your design hat to make it look natural. So instead of planting this drift of going and kind of arranging it, what we're going to do is take these 3 species and just jumble them all together. Let's drop one here and one over here, kind of where you are, maybe right there, yeah.
With 50,000 plants on hand, it will take the rest of the week to lay everything out. And then nature will take its course.
This is never a finished product. There's always new things showing up, things that are changing. This is not an arrangement that is predetermined by the designer and that arrangement is fixed forever. There's change that occurs over the years. It's changing composition.
No one, not even Larry, is sure how the prairie will develop in years to come. So as these plants grow, the experiment will continue. A short distance from the prairie, another bold study is just getting started. Wakehurst scientists are used to investigating the effect humans have on plants, but today they want to see what effect plants have on us.
We're about to start our research now, and you've really, really impressed me with all of the things that you've been noticing.
These children are here to help psychology professor Dawn from Royal Holloway University of London with a groundbreaking experiment that could change the way we plan our cities and towns.
We've got 36 classes of children coming between 8 and 13. If you can imagine, that's a huge number of children.
We all know that spending time in nature is beneficial to human health. Dawn wants to find out if different environments have different effects.
Is it something about having water present? Is it something about just seeing the wind flow across the meadowlands? Or being in that raw nature of an untended woodland and just having the treescape above you? So understanding what it is about those habitats that actually has these well-being benefits.
Learning manager Julie has randomly assigned the children one of 3 environments: the woods, the wetlands, or the meadows.
Do you think? Is it a bird's egg? I think we'll leave it in case the bird comes back, then it'll be able to find it. Can everyone see if I step back?
I think it would be a duck.
Do you think it's a duck's egg? It could be. I mean, you can just see their shoulders kind of dropping the minute they walk down the path. It's just that joy. Some of them don't get a chance to feel the earth and to touch flowers. When they come round the corner here and see our landscape and see the pond here, they're all kind of like, wow.
Oh, the tadpoles are down there.
It's a privilege to see that sometimes.
Using a mixture of questionnaires and self-portraits, Dawn is able to measure the children's mental state from before and after the visit. Using this data, Dawn hopes to provide advice on how we can create parks, woodlands, and other green areas to improve everyone's mental health.
We will be able to influence how natural spaces are designed, but also show the importance of why we should be spending time in nature and having those well-being benefits, particularly in children.
Over the next year, over 1,000 children and adults will be studied, providing real proof of the power of nature.
I drew myself with a smile because I really enjoy the nature and everything around. This is a really good place.
When I was drawing myself in Wakehurst, I got to feel the whole feeling again. So I drew myself quite happy because I love being around nature, especially when I'm with my friends.
But just a big smile on my face.
Do you think it's a duck's egg? It could be. I mean, you can just see their shoulders kind of dropping the minute they walk down the path. It's just that joy. Some of them don't get a chance to feel the earth, to touch flowers. When they come round the corner here and see our landscape,
Not far away, one of Wakehurst's more committed nature lovers, Conservation Supervisor Stephen, is on his own walk in the woods.
So today I'm checking the dormouse boxes at Wakehurst. We've got around 270 dotted throughout our woodlands. And Wakehurst has been part of the National Dormouse Monitoring Programme right since the early days back in the 1990s. They're a very mobile creature, so the only way we can get hands-on with dormice is by putting these boxes out in the woodlands. Otherwise, it'd be an impossible task to track dormice.
At under 10 centimetres long, the hazel dormouse is furry, nocturnal and hard to spot. It's also in critical decline across the country. Woodlands like this one in the south of England are one of its last strongholds.
There may be something furry and lively inside, so we bung the back up, put the box in the bag. And there is something wriggling in the bottom there. Oh, it's gone. So that was a wood mouse, a very, very lively wood mouse, which doesn't matter because we don't monitor those. So this is a nest. It's a bit like my bedroom, very untidy. Wood mice tend to build just a very chaotic nest. So it's just literally leaves in no real sort of distinct order, and the wood mouse will bury itself in the bottom there.
After several more hours of searching, Stephen finds another possible candidate.
Here we have a nice yellowneck mouse. And they're called yellownecks because they have a yellow band between their shoulders. Quite an aggressive mouse. I wouldn't necessarily want to pick this up because it would probably nip me. They're only in the bag for a few seconds, just so we can identify them and then just release them straight back into the woodland.
Stephen may be empty-handed today, but the search will continue. He'll be out in the woods every month until October, when the dormice bed down for their winter hibernation.
I'm always expecting to find one, but the last few years, struggling to find one or two, which should be a concern, but I'm not too worried about it yet. The thing about dormice, because they could be up in the tree canopy now, but we can't see them, so me not finding any dormice in the boxes doesn't necessarily mean they're not here. It's just that they're not using the boxes. So there's no need to panic just yet for the welfare of the dormice at Wakehurst.
Next time, a winter storm takes down some old favourites.
She was 97. It's so old. It's a real shame, actually.
Alberto takes charge of the Orchid Festival.
I need a holiday. I do need a holiday now, yes.
And Wakehurst blooms into a winter wonderland.
To see all the wonderful colours that are lit by that low winter sun, it just gladdens the heart.